Hey, Nick.
Hey, Joel.
I've got a good joke about construction,
Okay.
but I'm still working on it.
Nice.
Hi, everyone! No, I don't know. Okay, that's not what we're going to do.
Well, hello there.
Welcome back to Buzzed and Blabbering, where we...
Where we have consensual sips? Nope. Nope. It's
serious
Serious.
sips and consensual nonsense.
Okay, now we gotta redo that
And
all.
one of these days, we're going to figure that out. And welcome back to Buzzed and Blabbering
Serious sips.
and consensual
Consensual
nonsense. That was good.
That was
That was good.
brilliant. That was brilliant.
So, Nick, this was your week to buy beer.
It was.
What did you bring us?
Well, I just got this at the store.
Okay. What store were you at?
I was at Mountainside Grocers in Carabasset, Maine. And you mentioned last week about not getting IPAs. About 90% of the bottles in there were IPAs.
Oh, no. I like IPA.
Yeah,
What I was saying is we should diversify our portfolio a little bit and not get IPA all the time.
Correct.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Just wanted
for
to be
putting
clear
that
out there for everybody who loves IPA.
We love IPAs too, but we like to drink other stuff. I was trying to come up with a joke, but I got nothing on that one. So I have Machine Brewing out of
No, you don't.
Portland. Yeah, or no,
You have Bunker Brewing.
fuck me in the ass. I didn't even get a chance to look at it. I was like, oh, it's a Pilz now. I have.
Get it together, man. It's getting warm.
Holy shit. All right, cue me in one more time. I have with us the Bunker Hill Brewing Machine. It is a Czech Pilsner at 5.2 percentage? 5.2 fun points.
Yeah. It's a good can.
I picked it because it had a very German-esque lettering.
Sure
with the
does.
machine, and I like that a lot. It looks like calligraphy, which I used to do when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, I should get back into that. I love this. It's cool.
Not a normal childhood occupation, but okay.
4th grade.
Okay. The closest thing I got to calligraphy was the Stuzzy S.
What?
Isn't that what it's called?
What'd you just say?
The Stuzzy S, the Steezy S. What is it? It's the S where you draw the 3 lines and then the 3 lines.
Is that what that's called?
I think that's what it's called.
I
It's called the
didn't know
Stuzzy S. And they never did the rest of the alphabet. It was just the S.
That's what all the kids do.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It says, what'd you call it?
Stuzzy S.
A Stuzzy S.
I believe that is, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that's called.
You'll have to let us know, folks.
Write in, comment below. Tell us how wrong we are.
Well, Nick and Joel, it's not a Stuzzy S.
The internet's gonna internet.
And you know what? We can let them internet and we can drink.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, that was a good pop. Cheers.
Cheers. Ooh. Light.
Oh, that's smooth and crisp.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely some... I didn't even know how to classify that one. I want to say this, and I don't mean it the wrong way. This is like a high-class lawnmower beer. You know when you want a beer when it's just hot out and you want something that's refreshing?
I don't think there's ever been a more appropriate compliment. But that is probably the kindest thing you can tell somebody.
I'm just saying. Like, if I wanted to have a classy beer in the cup holder on my lawnmower, this is what I go for.
You have a rider?
Yeah.
Is it one of those, like... Is it an old style or is it the new style?
It's a 4-wheel drive tractor with a mower deck on it.
Okay. It's old style.
No. It's delicious, though.
I do like that.
Ooh.
Oh, we're gonna pound those.
Yeah, we are. This is classified as delicious.
Somebody I was mentioning that I was doing a podcast. Oh, it was one of our colleagues. He said we should see about killing a 30 rack at one point.
Oh, no.
And I told him he would have to join us for that.
Oh, no. So I'm a subscriber to the Unsubscribed podcast, and it's like the Fat Electrician and his friends, and he brought on a couple more guys, and so there are, I think, 5 or 6 hosts of this podcast all at one table.
Wow.
They killed 2 30 racks in a 2-hour podcast.
Doable.
No. Not for me, it's not.
Well, we just can't eat.
Good Lord. Yeah, okay. Well, this is delicious. I could drink a couple of these, no problem.
Boy, if I got a deal for you tonight.
It's just Bunker Brewing. Bunker Brewing, brewed and canned by Bunker Brewing Company, 17 Westfield Street, Portland, Maine. 1 pint lager beer, 5.2% alcohol by volume. 100% delicious.
It just says Alk by Vol.
Yeah. Yeah. I read it the long way, though.
Okay.
It's like a non-skunky summertime hot weather beer. I like it. Good job, guys.
Thanks.
Good selection.
I was happy with it.
So last week we did Nick's no, we didn't. Last week we did my interview because I'm not Nick.
That's Joel. This is Nick.
Last week Nick did my interview, and now I'm gonna do Nick's interview. And the purpose of this is because we're not professional interviewers. We're practicing on each other before we go and try it on somebody else. And go ahead and cut that as a sound bite because that can be used multiple times over for different things.
Title of your sex tape.
And I promise I'm not phoning the whole time that I'm talking to Nick. I have all of my show notes here. It was short notice, okay?
It's okay.
So I'm gonna start you off with an introduction.
Oh boy.
Okay. Nick Bucci, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You grew up in Gardner, Maine. Went to college at the University of Maine in Farmington. You're an educator with a focus on history who started out in the public sector and have recently, this year, moved to the private education sector. You're a Civil War reenactor, an avid writer, and a micro-niche podcaster. Did I forget anything?
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Wow. That was a lot better than what I did for you.
I'm trying.
It was killer.
Tell us about Little Nick.
Little Nicky. Is that Adam Sandler?
No, that's Little Dicky.
Oh.
Oh no, it was Little Nicky.
Little Nicky, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, where he's the devil?
Right.
Or he's the devil's assistant?
He's the devil's son.
Yeah, that's right.
Who was sent to Earth to grow up. Or something like that.
Dude, it's been so long since I've
It's
seen
been a
that.
long time.
Little Nicky, not to be confused with my penis.
That's Little Dicky.
That's Little Dicky. Sorry, Mom.
If you ever watch this.
I don't know. There's a reason I'm not putting it on Facebook yet. I'll put it on after this one.
After we go pro.
Yeah. Hey, Mom. What do you want to know?
Where were you born? Like, let's start from, just
Day one?
like, let's, every day from day one, but like, where you were born, where you grew up, something interesting about your childhood, the schools that you went to.
Okay. I was born in Brunswick in August.
Okay.
And
At the hospital?
yeah,
Were you at the civilian hospital or the one at the Naval Air Station?
Parkview.
Okay.
That's the Naval Air Station, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I gotta ask why my parents brought me there. I don't know. 3 days after I was born, my parents had bought a house in West Gardner, and so they moved us in when I was 3 days old.
Oh, so they hadn't moved in yet.
No.
They were like getting ready to move in, and then you were like, "I'm coming."
And then my mom was like, "Oh shit."
Okay.
So we moved it. So they were living in South Gardner. It's kind of funny because
I didn't realize that Gardner was broken up into quadrants.
there's 3.
Okay.
Gardner proper,
Yep.
West Gardner,
Yep.
and South Gardner. There's no east,
But no east or north. Okay.
Yep. So it's just those 3.
All right.
So I guess even like from day one, I have essentially lived in all Gardners, and I also eventually lived in South Gardner, and West Gardner.
Okay. I had a friend
Right or wrong.
who lived in Gardner, and I went to her birthday one time, and we went to this kick-ass bowling alley.
Yeah.
They had like nighttime bowling where they'd shut the lights off, and there were neon lights and
Was
lasers.
it the small pins?
No, it was the real deal. Big ones.
Big ones. So there was a place in Gardner. It's now a car place. Well, they do mechanic work too, but you can buy cars there. But it used to be a bowling alley.
Okay. And I don't know if that bowling alley was in Gardner or if it was the next town over.
Probably Gardner.
Okay.
Yep. There was one that I went to that was it 10 pin? Is that the small ones?
Candle pin.
Candle pin.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. So I remember doing that as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then graduating to the big balls.
That you put your fingers into? Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, you do.
Yeah, you do. So anyway, speaking of big balls,
So did you go to like an elementary school, or was it an elementary / middle school, or?
So I went to preschool twice because I was born late in August, and so I was, I think, what was it, too young the first time and then too old. Anyways, long story short, I went to preschool twice.
Like awkward birth times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I went to Helen Thompson in West Gardner. It's just outside of the minimum for the school bus to pick you up, because they didn't want to pick me up because I was about a mile away, and then my parents were like, "No, you can pick them up." So I got picked up at my house. Eventually, when I was older, my brother and I would wait at the corner. So we're at an intersection, and my house is right here, and the school is up this road.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bus would just come here, pick us up, and then go get other kids, rather than, because we were the only house that they had to go to on our road
Oh.
going east.
Okay. So they would pick you up and then loop around to the next road.
They would just, rather than go east and pick us up and then go west, they would just pick us up at the corner and go west.
Okay.
So it just saved them, and we didn't feel so bad. But
But your bus ride was super long for only being a mile from the school, is what you're saying.
it was like 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they had to pick up a few other people along the way, and then do a UE. Elementary school was good, I guess. I don't have a lot of memories.
That's all right.
A lot of things. I do remember a 4th and 5th grade war.
Wow.
I'm not going to say... All I remember is that I loved to trip people. Like, I would go up to people, and like I would tap them on the shoulder or something, they'd run after me, and then I'd just trip them. That's how I remember it.
Okay.
I'm sure other people would be like, "Wow, Nick, you were actually kind of a little bitch, and I beat the shit out of you." Maybe that's the case. I don't know.
Wow, so they just beat the memories out of you.
Maybe that's what it was.
Okay.
Somewhere.
So then you moved on to middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And middle school is terrible for everybody, so if you don't want to talk about it, it's okay.
Elementary school and middle school, I had at least a detention at least once a week.
Holy shit.
When I was in elementary school, I got several suspensions.
Wow.
Mostly because I just couldn't keep my mouth shut.
Okay.
And
so it's not like you were fighting people and selling drugs. You were
that was just once.
You were just being a little.
The fight. Yeah.
You were just being a Richard.
I was being a Richard.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have since apologized to every single teacher I had those years.
Like a written apology?
No, like I've seen them before and been like, "Hey, so I know I was a real idiot, when I was a kid, and I'm so sorry.
And now I'm a teacher. So
And now I'm a teacher, and I understand the hell. I understand the hell. So I had some good teachers.
Mm-hmm.
One time I had to go to the principal's office in middle school, and the first time I see him, or it might have been the second time, his name is Mr. Warren, and he was a big Civil War buff, and he gave me a book on Joshua Chamberlain. And we bonded a lot over that, and that kept me out of trouble. When I was in elementary school, they eventually kept me from recess, and they're like, this kid, too out of control. He's throwing rocks, he's an idiot.
So you take the energetic kid that needs to get their energy out and withhold
And they put me in the library.
And just make you sit.
Well, they said read. So I read.
So, note to self, or not note to self, because I figured this out. Note to all your future parents and teachers out there, if you've got an energetic kid that needs to burn their energy, don't take their recess away. It's going to make it worse.
I think I turned out pretty good. Right?
It's going to make it worse.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, and then you moved on to high school at some point.
Okay, hold on.
Okay,
so,
sorry.
Yeah, elementary school, they kept me in from recess, and I started reading. I read about the Civil War, and the IT guy for the district was a Civil War reenactor. So he came in and showed me all his gear. He said, bring one other friend, and I'll show you all my stuff. And I brought my friend Kendrick, and I was just absorbed in the stuff he brought. Which now that I've been reenacting, it's not a big deal. It's just mostly baggy clothes and leather gear, but it was pretty cool as a...
And wore things.
And wore things, but
Yeah.
we didn't get, he didn't bring his gun in, I don't think.
Right, because it's a school.
Yeah. But that kind of got me into the idea that I wanted to be a reenactor. And so from that day forward, I was like, I'm going to do this one day.
Okay.
Let's
Let's not get too deep into it, though,
No.
because we're going to talk about that.
My elementary school teacher gave me that poster.
And
Or elementary school principal, sorry.
And it's still on your wall
And
to
it's
this
still
day.
on my wall.
Nice.
Yep. So, yeah, I've had a lot of supportive teachers.
That's awesome.
Maybe that's why I got into teaching.
Could be.
I just figured that out.
Did you
Because I was
really?
like, why the hell did I want to do this?
Exclusive, right here, live. Well, not live, live and not live on YouTube.
Live in your life at this moment.
Live right now, but not now when you're watching it. Now when we're filming it, which is a while ago.
Yes.
Yeah. TV magic.
Jazz hands.
And that too. So, what's high school like for a Civil War focused writer and reader? Like, were you a social butterfly? Were you kind of like in the background with the geeks and the nerds and the goths, or were you kind of like in the mix? Were you friends with everybody?
I was friends with everybody.
Okay. You were friends with everybody.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, so elementary school, middle school, into high school, I played a lot of sports, which you wouldn't believe, but I did. I wasn't competitive at all. For example, my freshman year of high school, I was wrestling at the 155 weight class.
You were wrestling.
I wrestled.
Those are words I never expected to come out of your mouth.
Yep, I wrestled.
Ever.
And I also
Okay.
weighed 155 pounds once.
Okay. We all did at some point.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Wow, damn.
I think I surpassed that weight pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, me too. So, because I wasn't competitive, I weighed 155 or 150. It was like 155.7 or 156. So, I had to lose weight to go and wrestle my weight class. But I was too lazy. And so, the next day when they did the official weigh-in,
Yeah.
they were like, yep, so you're going to have to wrestle up in the 167 weight class.
Oh, no.
And we did a wrestle off the night before the meet. And so I wrestled the nicest kid on the team. His name is Lance. He was a big black guy. and he drank like protein shakes for every meal.
Shout out, Lance.
Lance, thank you so much for changing my life. He was a wicked nice guy, and he was also, yeah, he was just really nice. He was, it's like, Lance, I know you're going to kick my ass, so can we just make it as little painful as
Just
possible?
put me out of my misery
Just put me
now.
down. It's like, yeah, man, I'll do that, bro. No problem, man. And then, blew the whistle. I was on my back. Like, damn. So he was competitive. I was not.
Okay.
So that meant I had to go up to the 189 weight class. So that's
Oh no.
23 pounds over my weight class, over how much I weighed.
Oh no.
So I went to the meet. Yeah, long story short, fireman's carry was my go-to. And so I was like messing with him, just seeing what he was going to do. And then I just reached out my arm and he took it and just yanked it and popped my shoulder out.
Oh, neat.
And then he took me down. And I laid there as coach was like, all right, Nick, come on, get up. And I was like, I can't. And yeah, so got surgery and stopped doing any sports and got into theater. So I was a theater kid for most of my high school career.
Okay. What was your favorite production that you did?
That's a tough question. I did a couple. Well, they were all great ones. So I did musicals only because I could act. I didn't like singing or dancing on stage. And I think at least all the girls didn't like me dancing because I could never get the moves right. I was very slow to figure out where the feet go and the hands and all this and that, but I preferred just the acting part.
Yeah.
So my first acting gig I got by walking into the theater. I was going to see my English teacher, Mr. Lorette. Cheers. And I was just like, hey, what's going on, guys? And Mr. Walker came over. He did the musical part he did the music part for the musical. And then they just kind of stopped talking to me. They looked at each other and they're like, Nick, you look like a bartender. You want to be a bartender? I was like, what? It's like, yeah, this guy that we had in the production, he just bounced and we need a bartender. I was like, okay. So that was my first musical, Crazy for You. And I had 2 words.
Nice.
That I got to say.
Was it yes, sir?
It was 2 weeks.
Oh.
Since that day, February 17th, 2009, anything that's about to happen is in 2 weeks. When's graduation? 2 weeks.
Well, at some point, everything is 2 weeks away.
No, but it just pops out.
Okay.
And my parents to this day make fun of me. They'll ask me about something and then without even thinking about it, I'm like, yep, 2 weeks from now. And they just go, huh, 2 weeks. Because I struggled not knowing how to say those 2 words when I did the production. So every night when we were on, I said it a different way.
Why?
Because I didn't know the best way to say it. You could be like, it was something like...
It's 2 words, 2 weeks.
But the tone.
The enunciation.
And the enunciation, it's like, you could be like, 2 weeks. Or it could be like, 2 weeks? Or it could be like, 2 weeks.
Oh, so this was saying 2 weeks in the form of a question.
I don't know. To this day. There was a period in the script. So I know it's not... I was
Well, the
testing
3
it.
examples you gave me all had question marks at the end of them.
2 weeks.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Fuck you, San Diego. Well, that was a great show, everybody. Yeah. I mixed around with everybody, the theater kids, the nerds, the jocks. My best friend from childhood was Walter. He was more of he didn't do a lot of athletics. He did a little football, a little bit of this and that, but he was one of the cool guys. So I think I hung out with everybody, but I never fully ingratiated into any of the...
Wait, what was that word again?
I just used that word, and it just came like float off the tongue. Ingratiate.
Is it a real word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like put yourself in. Like fully immerse.
All right.
I was not fully immersed in any one group. I didn't go to any parties. I think I got invited to my friend Trisha's birthday, but there wasn't anything crazy going on there.
Okay.
So when we watch all these movies like Dazed and Confused or anything else that has to do with the high school experience,
parties?
I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think. I mean, clearly Hollywood took some creative liberties with high school parties and movies because I have never seen anything remotely close to Dazed and Confused.
But Jess has. Like, that was her high school experience. Those parties.
I guess it all depends on A, the crowd that you run with, and B, the school that you're in. Because they can be totally, well, not just the parenting either, but you can have a totally different environment from school to school, even if you're just a couple of towns apart.
True. True, and I think that's one thing. We were in a rural community. The high school serves Gardner, West Gardner, Pittston, Randolph. It's like 5 or 6 communities.
Right. So when you're in a rural school district and someone's like, "Hey, I'm having a party," the problem is that their house is literally 30 miles away from your house.
Yeah.
So unless you are friends with someone that has a car, or you have parents that are, well, this is, also the experience that I had.
Yeah.
It's like, if someone's having a party, you either need to hope that your friend has a car, you have a car, or your parents are willing to drive you to a high school party.
And pick you up at 2 in the morning.
And pick you up early in the morning. And that's probably not going to happen.
No. I was prom king.
No, you were not.
I was.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have the photo? You don't have to go get it.
Yeah.
But there's photographic proof of this?
Yep.
Okay. Was the person that you went to prom with elected as prom queen?
Yep.
Okay.
So I didn't get my first girlfriend until I was a senior in high school. I'd always wanted a girlfriend in high school and most of middle school, but I was just too nervous and awkward. So that part hasn't changed a lot, but
that's all right. Don't change, Nick.
No, I won't. I went up to this girl, and she was also in theater, and so I had written a script asking her to go to prom with me. And so I said, "Hey, Mary, can you read the script with me real quick? I'm just going over some creative writing stuff." She's like, "Yeah, sure." And we're going back and forth, and I was like, "Will you go to prom with me?" And she said, "Yes." And I was like, "Awesome."
And was she like, "Oh, you got me"? Or was
she was in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She was pretty happy.
So she understood what was happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she eventually did. Yeah. We dated for 2 years. You asked me about my favorite high school play.
Like Fiddler on the Roof, or...
I would say the Laramie Project. Have you ever heard of the Laramie Project?
I have not. The Laramie Project is a documentary-style play that explores the aftermath of Matthew Shepard's murder in Laramie, Wyoming in 1998.
When we did that production, when we did the Laramie Project, there were more characters than I've ever seen in a production. It was like 90 characters.
Holy crap. You had that many people in your school?
No. So we had... I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but I'm just going to throw some out there. We had 15 people who were in the production. Mm-hmm. Each of us had 6 characters.
Oh,
roughly.
Okay.
Those numbers don't add up, but that's besides the point. So, I was a news reporter. I was Matthew Shepard's dad. I was part of the team that went out to investigate Matthew Shepard's
It seems murder. Like a awfully recent murder to be doing a play about. I mean, you were only 11 years out from the murder happening when there was a play about it.
2011 or 2012, yeah.
It happened in 98.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it was a big national event. Like, this gay guy was tied to a fence and left there to die.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, he was beat up by a couple of guys. And I played the detective too. Matthew Shepard was picked up, beat up, died. And so the production team went out there and did a bunch of interviews. They turned it into a play, and then it's also a movie. So I did a portion of a speech that Matthew Shepard's father gave during the court date. I cried.
I was going to say, that must have been hard.
Yeah, it was hard because it was real.
Yeah.
They were real tears. Probably one of the moments where I was like, theater can be good and powerful.
That's neat.
Yeah. The year later, my first year at Farmington, the Shepard Foundation goes around and they talk about violence towards homosexuals and everything. And so the Shepards came to Augusta, and my theater director asked if I wanted to go with a friend of mine who had also graduated. And so we got to go and I met them, which was
Wow.
crazy to, put a face to the...
And you weren't
That
like,
works.
I played you on stage or anything?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I just told them, I was like, yep. It was a cool experience. Yeah.
So you graduated in...
12.
Okay. And did you take a gap year or did you go straight into college?
I went directly to Farmington. I
Okay.
didn't know...
Did you...
I was stupid. I'm not stupid. I have 2 degrees that are, I'm not going to say useless, but it's hard to get a job with them, except in certain areas. So I have creative writing and political science. And I applied to Farmington for the creative writing program. It's the only one in the state of Maine. I was going to apply to Endicott College down in Beverly, Mass. And I was just about to apply when I got the acceptance letter to Farmington. I said, all right, cool, one and done.
Yeah, plus going to a state school is like a third the cost of going out of state.
True.
So-
My uncle lives nearby, so I would have stayed there and probably saved like 15 grand or something.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have gotten the in-state
True.
student
Yeah.
price.
Yeah, I went to Farmington for creative writing, and then halfway through, an old history teacher, Mrs. Dosty, she said, what are you going to do with a creative writing degree? You have to be a writer to use that.
And you were like, yeah, and that's what I'm going to be.
Yeah, well, I was like, no, yeah, I probably need something usable. So I went into political science, and then she came up a week or 2 later. She's like, really? That's not any better, eh? You idiot. You could have done something like math or something useful.
Yeah, no.
Joke. I don't do math.
So, but you do have a degree in creative writing.
In political science.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is you have a degree in what you initially went to college to get a degree in.
Yes.
All right, so
I
even if it's worthless, I feel like that's a win because you stuck with it, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was worthless or that I regret anything, but when I look back, I question why I went down that route. Like you don't need a creative writing degree to write.
No.
I met some really cool people along the way, but I don't know why I went with creative writing.
Okay.
I could have been...
Was this a 4-year program?
Yeah.
All right, so you did 4 years at UMF, 4 years as a Beaver.
Yep.
That's just that their mascot's a beaver. Beaver pride deep inside, baby.
Woo!
So you graduated college, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And
2016.
then what?
So I went back that summer to an old summer job at a restaurant.
And you were like, oh my God, that lady was right?
Well, no, because so when I graduated, a lot of people had plans. They knew what they were doing, and I just was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
And were you okay with that?
At the time, no. I think I was scared, and I was like, am I going to be living with my parents forever? Thank God I'm not.
That seems to be the in thing right now.
It's helpful.
It's
it
helpful.
saves a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I ended up staying with them for quite a while.
When your starter house is $450,000.
Mine was only $115. So I was working at a restaurant, and one day I popped my shoulder out, and I had to get workman's comp, and they didn't like that, and so I put in my notice, and I was like, all right, see you later. And then the next day, I'm at the Walgreens getting some meds or something, and my old history teacher, Mrs. Dosty, calls, Amber, and she's like, hey, do you want to be a long-term sub? We need somebody to cover a history class. I was like, sure. And so I was supposed to only be there for 3 weeks tops, 2
Okay.
weeks.
I feel like
Turned
that's
out-
not the definition of a long-term sub.
Well, it is. It's anything.
Really?
Yeah. Like
Oh.
it can be, if you're there every day, I don't know what the minimum is, probably a week, but then it's a long term.
Okay.
So I was there for about a little less than a month. And then I realized that I like teaching. So then I started getting some classes and stuff to get my certificates.
How long do you have the student teach for?
A semester.
Okay.
So this was something that irked me. So I long-term sub for 3 weeks. They hired another guy to take over for me. Because I didn't have my certificates or anything, I was only able to sub a certain number of days.
Gotcha.
So they hired him. He came in, did another month or whatever, I ended up driving for UPS.
Oh no!
For maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
What can Brown do for you?
Not
Were you in a?
I was an assistant. It was during the holiday season, and so all I did was run packages to the door. But because I had popped my shoulder out, I was scared I was going to slip on ice.
Yeah.
And I hated the job. It was one of the worst periods of time. But one day, Amber called me back and they said, "Hey, we had to fire that guy. He didn't do anything. And do you want to come back?" I was like, "Hell yeah."
That's the whole point of being a substitute.
Well, so as a long-term sub, I was doing the lesson plans, doing the grading, the curriculum, and everything. And this guy, I came in, and I shit you not, there were papers that high, actually taller. There were 2 stacks, I think, about that tall, of papers that he had not graded over the course of his tenure. So
that's fun.
He got let out, and Amber and I plowed through the papers in a couple of afternoons.
I bet you did.
Yeah, we did. And then I was back to teaching and trying to get some coursework in and fingerprints and temporary certification. And then that spring, Mr. Lorette retired, and so they asked me to be a long-term sub for a full semester. So I taught English. Again, I'm creating the curriculum, designing the lesson plans, handling the classes, anything extra. I was also helping direct the school play at this point.
Okay.
Because I was like, I miss theater. And after that, I applied for the job.
And did you get it?
No, I did not get it.
Oh.
I did not get it because, number one, I had not student taught.
Okay.
Even though I had been teaching for almost a full year.
Mm-hmm.
And they hired somebody with a master's degree from Massachusetts.
Yep.
He only lasted 2 years, just saying. Not that you did anything wrong, Gardner, but
You could be missing out on this guy.
Fast forward, and eventually they gave... I did my student teaching.
So when you didn't get the job, did you leave education for a period of time, or did you keep hammering through?
It was the summertime, and I was working in Rangeley. I had got a job. Previously, I was in Augusta for a summer, and I was scanning old newspapers from the Rangeley region. So the Rangeley Lakes...
Heritage?
Well, it's the Historical Society.
Okay.
Are you talking about the newspaper?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been the Heritage. There was the Rangeley newspaper, the Rangeley Lakes Railroad. I don't remember, but I was scanning and digitizing all these documents, and then later on my boss asked if I wanted to be the assistant museum director at the Outdoor Heritage Museum.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was living in Rangeley, and I worked up there, and I gave one last Hail Mary. The video production teacher had left, and I was like, I'm not certified for this.
What summer was this?
2017 or 2018.
All right.
Yeah, one of those two.
Did you ever go to Forks in the Air?
Yes.
Or the Inner Eye Cafe?
No.
Okay.
I did Forks in the Air once.
Forks in the Air. My brother-in-law worked in the kitchen at Forks in the Air.
Okay.
And my sister-in-law worked at the Inner Eye, which is like a coffee shop next to the Forks in the Air.
Okay.
And I can't remember the other restaurant that she worked at there. It may have been Moose Alley.
Moose Alley.
Like the kitchen in the bowling alley?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's it.
I went there a couple times. So yeah, I was in Rangeley, and the principal called and said, "Hey, do you actually want this job?" Yeah. And he said, "Okay, we'll interview you." So that's how I got in my official first
So were
teaching
you
gig.
certified at this point?
I was certified in English and history.
Okay. And this job was for...
Video production, which there
So neither of those
It's
things.
neither of those things.
Okay.
I was hired on the condition that I would start going for my master's
Oh.
in instructional technology.
Okay.
I hated that program. Sorry, I hated that program. It was like every class was, "Hey, check out these apps. Here's how you can use them." Okay, let's check out these apps. It was just ridiculous. The only class
Just
that I liked
a class
was,
on apps?
It was a class. It was classes on apps.
Oh.
It was rough. But there was one class about. It was just a little different, and he had us do coding with Python and stuff, and that one was just a little bit more engaging. And
I have
liked
heard
it.
of that.
Yeah.
Since I hang out with so many teachers, but I'm not a teacher. But I've definitely heard Python.
Yeah. It's a coding
And not
language.
the Nicki Minaj album, but the coding
I
program.
wouldn't even know that. Props to you for knowing that.
I didn't even know if that's accurate.
Yeah, we're going to go with it. Oh, we're doing the reverse of last week. All right, hang on.
This one was a little... I mean, last week's beer was excellent, but it was a lager, so that was hard to consume in any amount of time.
All right, I'm with you.
Cheers. Bonk.
Cheers me proper, motherfucker.
So at this point, you've gone back to Gardner to teach what grade?
Video production was an elective for all grade levels.
Middle, like elementary through high school?
Just high school.
Okay.
So I was at Gardner High School from, I'm going to get my years wrong, 2018 to 2021.
Oh,
3 years?
so you taught from pre-pandemic to center of pandemic.
Yeah.
Fun.
Nope.
Okay.
That's why I left.
So then once you left, did you continue with education, or did you go like service industry, or what were you?
Oh, now we're going to go back in time. Okay. So I had bought a house in Gardner in 2017.
Okay. That was a good time to do it.
It was. It was $119,000. So I bought the house. I lived in it for a while, and then I met a girl. Eventually, I moved in with her, and we had a house. I sold the house I had. I quit teaching because I just got burnt out.
Mm-hmm. Understandable.
Kids and
pandemic and pissed off parents and everything else that comes with it.
I just didn't know what the point is. I was like, the kids aren't learning anything. I didn't feel very supported by the administration.
Were you fully teaching on Zoom at this point?
2019, we got out of school early, roughly. It was
Everybody
March,
did.
right?
Yeah.
So I still taught, but it was all Zoom that spring.
Yeah.
The next year was hybrid.
Yeah.
And we did...
Because you can only get COVID on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Whatever it was, yeah. So we had half the kids in, half the kids on the computer, and I was teaching video, and so it's...
On video.
Yeah, well, that part's nice, but trying to get kids to film stuff, and it was... Yeah. I had to rewrite my entire curriculum that I had planned, and it was just a mess, and I just got tired, so I left.
I think a lot of educators got super burned out in that 3-year period, and a lot of them left.
Yeah. I had actually gotten a TikTok account as a teacher. It was like Mr. Bucci or whatever it was. And I was TikTok friends with all the other teachers around the world, and we had started a TikTok community, and we had a Google Drive together, and we were like collaborating. It was really good.
You were jamming?
I was jamming. I had thousands of followers.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I was focused on that. I mostly just made fun videos.
Right.
But yeah, I just really got tired of it. While I was teaching video, I realized how much I actually loved the video part. And so I said, I'm going to start a business doing video. So I used some of the money that I got from the house, and I bought all of this equipment. And then
the equipment that you're watching us on right now. Thanks for selling your house, Nick.
My pleasure. Well, sort of. So I bought all this stuff, started learning how to use it, and made a new business. My girlfriend at the time was a graphic designer, massage therapist, writer, everything.
That's quite a jumble of professions.
Yeah, she had a lot going on.
Okay.
We bought a house in South Gardner. So it was at this point that I had lived in all Gardners. Yeah, I was doing video work mostly. I was living off of the money that I made, and just like, all right, I got at least a couple of years to try and pull this off. The first year it was negative, obviously.
Yeah,
it was like $15,000 in equipment, and then I slowly burnt myself out of that.
So, what was the biggest production you ever did?
Money-wise?
No, did you ever do a commercial or anything like that?
I did.
Or work for a bigger business?
I did a decent amount of second shooting, which is when somebody else gets a job but they need assistance. And so I had a guy in Portland and a guy in more locally that just wanted me to take my camera and just film some shots for him.
Okay.
And then I gave him the SD card, and then he did everything else. I like those. Those were nice and easy. It was. He would be like, "How much do you charge?" And I'd be like, "I think I said $350 for a half day."
Yeah.
And so he'd be like, "Cool," and then he just charges that to the client. So I did some of that. My biggest job was maybe $5,500 to film interviews, and I like doing that. Yeah, so that'd be the biggest job.
Okay.
Yeah, I did commercials, interviews, but that was a lot of fun for a while, and then I just got obsessed with the money part and worried about how I was going to survive, that I didn't love the video part anymore.
Survival is key.
It is. It is.
Eventually, people have a powerful need to eat.
It's crazy how that works. If you don't provide food, people get angry.
Yeah.
As they should.
So how did you end up here?
My girlfriend and I broke up. We split initially, and then we were like, no, we can make it work. No, you can't. But we tried living together. We lived together and went through it for a little bit. And I said I was done with video work. I did construction for a month or two. And I took a road trip down south, put everything in a storage unit, and I went to Europe for 3 months. And then when I came back, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. The only thing I've known really is teaching. I don't know if I want to get into teaching again, but why not? And so I did, and here we are.
Okay. And so what attracted you to this particular job versus like a public sector job?
I applied to several public positions, and I think because I had been out of the game for 5 years, that might have been a turnoff for him. I applied to the DoD to work at a school for the Army or whoever. And I was happy to go back to Germany or Italy or anywhere and teach at an American school on a base.
For kids of service members?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was going to do that. I applied to a couple of artsy creative schools. I almost got into one, and then I just saw this CVA, and I did not like winter.
Okay.
At all. Even though I'd lived in Maine for 31 years. But I just liked that it was out in the middle of nowhere, and I was looking forward to some peace and quiet, a chance to do some more writing.
Mm-hmm. How's that working out?
Decent.
Okay.
I'm really only writing enough for a blog post a week, which is fine.
So what are the advantages and disadvantages for public versus private education?
For a teacher?
For a teacher.
Okay. Right now, if you were to start off, if you were certified and everything, you got a teaching job. At a public school, you would make $40,000 starting off.
Yeah. With
benefits and everything. But still, at this point, it's not really a livable wage.
Right.
It's like a pro and a con. One of the pros of coming to CVA is that I have housing and food that I don't have to worry about.
Right.
That was nice.
Right. Because if you were going to rent, call it a one-bedroom apartment, which there really isn't any of up here.
Right.
But, I mean, you're probably, to live at the base of a ski mountain, you're probably $2,000 to $2,500 a month without utilities.
That is what it was when I was checking it out. I was like, I'm not going to be able to afford to live up here.
Yeah.
So one of the pros is having all that.
And you can continue to live in your apartment on campus even during summer break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to. One of the cons is I don't get paid as much as a public school teacher.
Yeah, but if you add up your cost of living that you're getting. Yeah.
Exactly. It kind of works out.
Yeah.
The kids here are drastically more respectful.
That's the sentiment that I get from a lot of you guys that are here.
They leave and they say thank you still. Because sometimes I can sense that they're like, God damn it, this guy is a dick. But then afterwards they're like, thanks, Nick. Okay, cool. I miss some of my peers from when I was working in public school.
Mm-hmm.
I had, not with the video production, I had a department, but I didn't feel as connected to my peers as when I was in the history or English departments. So it's nice to have that again.
Yeah.
Here.
And then, so what's it like being a teacher at a school that is specifically focused on its students participating in action sports?
There's a divide. The challenge is balancing academics and athletics.
Right.
I feel like there should be a decision made on whether athletics goes over academics every time or if academics takes precedence. And I'm fine with it, whatever direction is chosen, but I feel like right now they're competing. Competing.
Which is hard because you have different kids on different teams with different travel and competition schedules.
Right.
So you can't just put down like a boilerplate, this is how it's going to be for everybody, because you get some kids that go to Japan for a month, and you get some kids that go to Europe for 2 weeks, and you get some kids that go to Vermont for a week. Like, how do you calculate for all
There's
that?
There's all that. But I mean, like, when do academics take more importance than athletics? Like, when can we pull kids from athletics and be like, hey, you really need to take this test?
Yeah.
And oftentimes the athletics are like, no, we need that time too. And so there's a little conflict, I think.
And do you think that's why so many kids end up in Mount or City Hall?
Sometimes. They also just might struggle in that program. I mean, we are a college prep high school.
Right.
Some classes more than others, and there's a couple classes that are very, very rigorous.
Yep. Yep,
So
there are.
I think there just needs to be a balance,
Mm-hmm.
which is lacking.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so this is aligning up perfectly how I was hoping that it would.
You're welcome.
So we've gotten through like the history of Nick to modern day Nick. So what I've got here is I have a list of rapid fire questions,
Oh boy.
and there's about 20 of them.
Okay.
So if you can answer these questions in like 2 sentences.
2 sentences.
Okay.
So don't ramble like I usually do.
Well, I'm just like, depends. Do you want this to be a, what are we at? Like a 2-hour podcast, or do you? I don't even know how long we've been
I
going.
don't know.
How long have we been going, people? We're at an hour. So
All
do you
right.
want this to be like a 2-hour podcast, or do you want this to be a 4-hour podcast?
We'll stick with the 2-hour mark.
Perfect. All right. So just don't dwell on the question. Just
Okay.
say the first thing that comes to your mind. What's
Shit.
No.
Sorry.
What's one thing that people don't know about you?
You told me not to do this. Which people? Like everybody else?
People.
So like my inner group knows that
Don't think about it too hard.
I bake sourdough bread.
Nick is an artisan bread maker.
I have a loaf right over there.
That's good stuff. What is a guilty pleasure that you enjoy? Not like that.
A peanut butter milkshake.
Peanut butter milkshake. Yeah.
Peanut butter milkshakes. That's
All right.
it.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Camp Hines.
Camp Hines.
Camp Hines.
Is that a summer camp?
It's a Boy Scout summer camp.
Okay.
I went 9 or 10 times.
Awesome. Does it still exist?
Yep.
All right. Is it still a Boy Scout camp?
Ooh, actually, I think it went through some financial issues. I'm not sure if it's around still.
Let us know in the comments below.
But it's now, Scouting America, or the Scouts, right? Not Boy Scouts, it's Scouts.
I think it's just called Scouts now. Yeah.
But I was in the Boy Scouts back in my day. Eagle Scout.
All right. So this would be a question that you like. What is a book or other media that changed your life?
Okay, so we got the Laramie Project. That was like a theater one.
Right.
But
Like a book that you picked up to read for fun and it ended up having more of an impact on you than you thought it would.
11/22/63 by Stephen King. Because it's you go back in time to try and prevent the John F. Kennedy assassination.
Oh.
And just the description of how, for example, burgers tasted back then compared to today.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
did I say that loud enough? I want a burger from 1963.
I think it came through.
I just want to make sure. It's important.
Going back to your 3 months of gallivanting, what is your favorite place that you've ever traveled to?
I hate that question. It's so hard.
Okay. We can skip it if you
No.
want. I think was it France?
Can I give you top 3?
Sure. Top
Okay.
3.
Top 3.
From 3 to 1.
Oh, fuck. Okay. London.
Okay.
London, there was a lot to do. London was the first stop that I made that was English speaking, because before that I was in France, Germany, Italy, Switzerland,
Real English
Netherlands.
speaking.
It was real proper English,
Right.
and I
Right,
understood what they said. Paris. I just want to go back again.
Because Paris.
Paris, and then Pistoia, which is in Italy. It's just above Florence, and my brother and I were there, and we just met like some amazing people.
What's the food like in Italy?
Fucking amazing.
Yeah. Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Getting a little bit into Civil War reenacting here,
Okay.
because that's one of your hobbies.
That's me.
If you could reenact any Civil War battle, which one and where?
I have reenacted several battles. I did Gettysburg 2 or 3 times, 4 times. I did Antietam. That was my favorite reenactment. Was the Battle of Antietam, the 160th.
And did you do that on the actual place that it happened?
We were just a mile. We were a mile downstream from where the units that we were portraying engaged their counterparts in the Confederate Army. So like, we crossed at the exact moment to the day to the time. We crossed a creek that they crossed just a mile up to the minute.
So nerdy.
And that's all we were thinking about. We were like, it's to the minute, guys. Here we go.
So do you have a specific battle? And if not a specific battle, do you have a specific place in the country where you would want to do a reenactment at?
I would be interested in some more of the Petersburg campaign battles. I visited Petersburg, but I haven't participated in any of those engagements. I was supposed to do an event in April, Sailors Creek, but I wasn't able to go. The Crater.
Okay. I still think we need to make a full-scale operational model of the Civil War submarine.
We can do that. I will not be going on any training missions.
Oh yes, we will.
Nope, because that's how they die.
There is no point
2 or 3 times.
There is no point in building it if we don't do it.
Okay, well then my life insurance needs to be updated, and I need to take my ex off of it.
We'll have modern safety equipment like a scuba tank.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Like if the thing fills up with water, we're like, well, I guess we'll get out now.
State Farm, are you cool with that? Thanks.
They're not. By the way, your policy's been canceled.
That's one dangerous hobby.
We've talked about which one you want to do, but what is your favorite that you've done?
Antietam.
It was,
when we were crossing, at least I didn't know that it was to the time until afterwards, but that was a campaigner style event. So there's like 3 different steps to reenacting. You join reenacting and you might be like, I think they call it mainstream. And so you're not inauthentic, but you're camping in big A tents. You got a company street and
versus like a pup tent in the woods
or even no tent.
Okay.
So Antietam, we camped with a blanket roll.
Yeah.
I slept on a blanket. The first morning we were there, we had hiked in about a mile in the dark, just like holding on to the other person in front of you, trying not to die. And we all were exhausted, so we just literally crashed where we were when we got there. They had sent out a couple of pickets. There was firing at night. It was awesome. And then the next morning when we were making our coffee, the Rebs attacked us. So we had to stop making our coffee, get into line.
They didn't even let you have coffee?
No.
Oh my
gosh. I was a
gosh.
little pissed about that.
What the heck?
But it was just such a authentic moment that I forgot who I was and I forgot where I was, and I just instantly thought I was in the second Rhode Island.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, these are all personal questions, by the way. There'll be another section here with career-related questions.
Okay.
So, personally, what are your goals for the next year?
What are my goals for the next year? Number 1, get back to full capacity with my knee.
Okay.
Which we're coming along. I think next week I might be out of the brace.
That's good.
Maybe. Number 2, I'd like to enhance my writing. I want to better my writing. I would like to keep my schedule on my blog and maybe get some more money in that way. Camping.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna do that this summer.
Yep.
We're gonna take this show on the road.
Hell yeah. I want to experiment with the sourdough.
We should do sourdough while camping, like open flame sourdough.
That'd be interesting.
Like in a Dutch oven.
We could try that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to be creative.
Okay.
Boom. Short answer.
Perfect.
After a long one.
So, getting into some career stuff with your long career that you've had. That was not sarcasm.
It sounds like it should be sarcasm. I haven't really had a long career.
Okay. You've had multiple, though.
I guess so.
Yeah. No, you've had on and off again careers.
Yeah.
What's your proudest accomplishment professionally?
The interviews that I did were for wow, I went Australian there. For
non-profit.
You know.
And we're back.
The interviews I did when I had my video business were for a nonprofit.
Okay.
And they were put together to honor those individuals who were benefactors to their communities. So it was kind of cool to give back in that way, even if I got paid.
That's neat.
But yeah.
What is a misconception? What is a misconception that people have about educators?
Thank you for not saying the Civil War. About that we have our summer off. Is that too cliche? Like, we do have our summer off, but we get paid to put up with your fucking kids.
Yeah, but you don't get paid during the summer.
I do.
No.
Okay, well, hold on. My paycheck goes through.
They pay you for 9 months of
9
work,
months.
but they split it up over 12 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know a single teacher who doesn't either have a second job or do a little bit of something.
Some sort of side hustle. Yeah.
And I think the summer
Teachers do not get paid enough, and everybody says that, and no one does anything about it.
What did Jess say? Like, if we were paid what babysitters were paid, we should be paid $168,000 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not asking for that, but it would be nice to be able to survive.
One of my chiefs on the boat said that teachers should get paid $1 million a year, and then they get deductions based on how their class does.
That's tricky because I like that idea, and I'd be okay with that. Every class is different, and so you'll have some classes that perform less than others.
Right.
The thing about this school is everybody's a fairly high performer.
Right, or else they can't travel with their team.
Yeah. So they're pretty smart cookies.
Yeah.
But if you're in public school and you get a
shit class.
Yeah. I mean, it's not on you. You can do the best you can.
Right.
About $1 million. I
mean, even if you get deducted down to $500K, I mean,
you bring me down to $100K, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give someone starting their career in the field of education? And don't say don't do it.
Oh, no, I'd say do it. Advice, there's a lot.
Like if there was, like if, let's say that, John Jinkelheimer Schmidt was graduating.
His name was my name, too.
Was graduating from UMF with a master's in education. And he had never taught a class before, aside from student teaching.
Ignore almost every single thing that you learn with those books that are like, here's how to teach children. Here is the process of development for children. Just ignore that shit and just go to your department head and be like, give me a list of ideas and notes. And just take some notes, get to know your kids, and try and find a connection.
I like it. What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned in your career? As a teacher, what have you learned?
Even if you do your best, sometimes it won't be enough.
And it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because sometimes you can't force a kid to learn. Is that what you're saying? Or sometimes
for everything,
like you can't scoop out of the well until it's dry.
You can try and help a kid, and if they don't accept the help, then they don't accept the help. You can't lead the horse to water. You can
lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
You can't shove it up their nostrils.
Sometimes you just need to hold their head underwater and drown them.
Yeah.
Don't do that with children.
Yeah, we do not endorse that.
If you could change one thing about the industry of education, what would it be?
About the industry.
About the educational industry as a whole.
As in, like, becoming a teacher?
No, like, as a teacher, what's, like, the biggest thorn in your side that you would change, as, like, administratively, we'll say?
So, it's been good here so far. I'm only in year 1,
Mm-hmm.
but I have felt more support here than I have in the past.
So let's do this two ways then. So, what's the number one thing you would change about being a teacher in public education and then private education?
So public, and it goes for both. It's just trust that after the teacher has some experience under their belt, give them a little bit more
wiggle room.
Wiggle room.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they should be assessed and looked at and not judged, but critiqued. Every teacher should be critiqued from the first day till the last day.
Right.
But, like, critique them, give them prompts, and then once they have, you know, a few years of experience, I mean, let them loose to... Every teacher comes to the classroom with new ideas, and that's kind of cool to see.
So, like, by year 3, the administration should not be hovering.
Yeah.
Pick a different word. Yeah.
Nitpicking,
Okay.
no bueno.
Or, like, the random classroom observations.
Yeah, and I'm usually okay with those. During COVID, that's what pushed me over the edge.
Because they would, like, sit there and watch your online shit.
Well, they came to a hybrid class,
Yeah.
which I had just swapped what I was planning to do because I was like, that's not going to work. And so I made a change. I didn't get a chance to talk to the administration beforehand. Long story short, they were like, what are you doing? You're doing a terrible job. Why are you, like, what's going on? How come you were doing so well last year? What's changed? And I was like, fucking COVID, dude. And so from that moment on, I was done.
So would you change anything about the private education sector?
I don't think I know enough yet.
Okay.
I think I'm seeing that there are some clicks, maybe, but that's just in every industry, so I don't think it's teacher specific.
So I think I'm going to save these questions for a year. And we're going to come back and do it again.
Oh, that'd be a good one. And we'd be like, Nick from last time, what do you think?
So what is one positive impact that you hope to leave behind in education, like by the end of your career?
End of my career?
Like, let's say you make it 20 years here. Maybe not here, but as a teacher.
Yeah.
What's one lasting impact that you want to leave behind as your legacy?
I don't know if it'd be one lasting impact, but the high school and middle school experience is not exactly amazing.
Right.
As a kid.
No, it's not.
And so I just want to help kids get through that
Mm-hmm.
with a little less pain than what some of us experienced. And so if I can help a kid or two every year to just, I guess, be happier, then mission accomplished. So I guess the trickle-down effect would be the lasting impact.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go with that.
I like it.
Cool.
I like it. All right. Hot take time.
Ooh, hot take. Pancakes.
Nope. If you could tell parents anything from the perspective of a teacher, what would it be?
Your child is not an angel. Sorry. Elvis Presley once wrote about your child, you're the devil in disguise. Sometimes. Yeah, I'm going to stop there.
No, keep going.
No, that's all.
This is not the episode that we get Nick fired on.
What are you hooked on this week, Joel?
Are we doing that?
Or not? I mean...
I'm mentally recovering from my test.
Ooh, how do you think that went? I meant to ask you earlier.
I felt better about it once it started than I did before when I was studying. So when I was studying, I was like, there's no way I'm going to know all this stuff. And then when the test started and I kind of like got into the meat of it, I was like, oh, I actually know this.
That's awesome.
So I think I'm going to score better than I was hoping to. But I only need a 70 to pass. So If I got a 71, I'm going to be ecstatic.
When do you find out?
I don't know. Because only 4 of us took the test.
Wow.
Yeah, and all of the answers are subjective. So they have to grade each test individually.
Yep.
And there were 128 questions. So it's probably going to be a week or so.
All the questions are subjective, or are they like multiple choice?
All of the questions are subjective.
Damn.
Yeah.
Standardized test. I don't like those either.
Based on how well you can read code. And not like computer code, but like plumbing code. So you have to know the difference between may, shall, should, will, and must.
So English.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have some reading comprehension. So
It's funny that you said plumbing code and then went into English.
So if I knew the answer, but the answer that I found in the code book didn't match what was on a choice for your answer on the paper, I would circle it and then I would write down the chapter, the subsection, and whatnot, so that it could be like, oh, that's where we found that.
Gotcha. Smart.
So, and then we had to draw 2 pictures.
Just pictured a child's drawing and it's a house.
No, I had to do it, but I had to do it to scale. So I had to do 4 separate drawings on 2 sheets of paper on a 120 scale.
And what's a 120 scale, Joel?
Where 1 inch equals 20 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so 1:20.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking like 120 for like 120 millimeter. But
No. Like, yeah. So like a scale drawing of a full size. Yeah.
Cool.
So that was fun. We started the test at 8 and did not get out of the testing room until almost 3:30.
Ew.
Yeah. And I went pee twice. That was all the breaks that I had.
Those tests should be
And
illegal.
we couldn't have our phones with us. The phones had to stay in the car. I don't own a watch. And the clock in the room was broken. So I didn't even realize how late it was until we got out. And the guy that I went there with from my work, who was also taking the test, was like, holy shit, it's 3:30. I was like, what? Because I thought it was like noon.
Damn.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And so it was broken up into 2 sections. You had 83 questions of multiple choice, which are subjective answers. And then you had 25 questions just about dirt. And then you had the drawings. And when we left, the other 2 guys that were taking the test were still in the multiple choice section.
Poor bastards.
So they probably went until 5 o'clock and then tapped out, would be my guess.
Did you have a jar of dirt? I've got a jar of dirt.
No, I had a book of dirt.
You had a book of dirt. Johnny Depp would be so disappointed.
Or a book about dirt. But every time I come back to the office with a dirt sample, I come in going, oh, I've got a jar of dirt.
My man.
What about you? What's your weekly obsession been? Wow, I'm almost through.
I think I need another beer.
What been you doing?
Well, I've been obsessed with Stan Rogers. Have you ever heard Northwest Passage?
Is it a song?
Yeah.
Yes. Because you were playing it on the big screen the other night.
I love that song.
Okay. I have been to the Northwest Passage.
I'm jealous. Is Franklin's finger, is that a thing? Or Franklin's hand? Or is that just a metaphor?
What's it referencing?
I don't know.
Okay.
I thought it was like maybe a peninsula or something.
It could be a spit of land from northern Canada.
That's what I wonder.
Okay.
Reaching into the Beaufort Sea, because I know that's a thing.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yep. There is not much to see up there.
Just ice.
Well, and water.
And water.
And frozen water, which is ice.
Yep.
And the occasional polar bear. And the occasional walrus.
Interesting.
And the northern lights. And that's about it.
Yeah. I've been into sea shanties primarily.
Okay.
And then when I was listening to the sea shanties, I was getting stuck on Barrett's Privateers, Northwest Passage, and one other song that I can't think of now. And all of those were Stan Rogers songs, so then I've just been obsessed with him now.
So do these sea shanties make you want to sell everything you own and buy a sailboat?
No, they just make me really... Well, there was a time where I almost bought somebody's sailboat.
Okay.
I was really close. No, we sing them at the campfire reenactments. And my friend Thomas does a really good rendition of Barrett's Privateers, probably better than anybody else I know. And it's just... They're good campfire songs.
I just started following this guy on Instagram. His account is, I believe, Sailing with Phoenix. And he worked for, I think, Discount Tire Warehouse for like 15 years. And had a bunch of money saved up in his 401k. And he was just doing like the corporate thing. And he was just like, when he got diagnosed with some sort of rare disease, and he was like, okay, so I can either waste away sitting behind my desk, or I can go do something epic. So he quit his job, cashed in his 401k, bought a sailboat with zero experience, and then learned how to sail, and he sailed solo. Well, not solo, he has his cat with him, but sailed solo from Oregon, and he landed in Hawaii like 2 days ago. And he's got a goal of going around, like circumnavigating the globe by himself.
I think it's unfortunate that people wait until something
Like a
bad
life-changing
happens.
event. Yeah, but a lot of people need like a jumping off point.
True. I guess I can't really say that. I waited until I was 30 to do any traveling. Like 30 was my year. And I was like, life is great. But it took me 30 years. I guess you can't really count childhood, but maybe I should have taken a gap year before college. Maybe I should have taken a gap year after college, but I didn't. But yeah, it's good for him.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
he's doing awesome.
I would love to go sailing.
So do you have any messages for anybody who may be viewing for Memorial Day?
Do I have any messages?
Yeah.
One thing about private education is I don't get Memorial Day off, so I wish I got Memorial Day off. Also, God bless all the ones who gave it all.
That's a good point. Memorial Day is not Veterans Day. So if you see a veteran, you can say thank you for your service, but that's like a Veterans Day thing. Memorial Day is for people that gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Memorial Day was originated by Confederates, actually. 1866.
Of course
It was one of the first Memorial Days. And then Veterans Day, of course, is November 11th, and so it represents World War I.
The more you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
You all stay classy.
Stay classy, San Diego.
What's our normal outro?
Oh.
Last time I just yelled back shots. We're not going to do that again.
Front
this
shots?
time. Anyway. Thanks, dude. That was good.
Yeah, that was fun.
We'll see you all on the next episode of Buzzed and Blabbering, where we have
Serious sips.
and consensual nonsense. Thanks for stopping by.
Wow.